Welcome back. Well, I've been joined by actress Marianne Jean-Baptiste, whose performance in Mike Leigh's Secrets and Lies earned her a nomination for this year's Best Supporting Actress Oscar. Marianne has chosen another very powerful movie as her favourite film. It's the controversial French film La Haine, in English The Hate. A critical and box office success, it won the Best Director's Prize at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival. Directed by Matthew Kassovitz, it's a searing study of 24 hours in the lives of three teenagers, one African, one Arab, one Jewish, who live on a Paris housing estate where unemployment, racial tension and riots are rife. After one of their friends is beaten into a coma by the police, their hostility and hatred threatens to spiral out of control.
Et alors, qu'est-ce que tu vas en faire?
Vas-y, arrête.
Qu'est-ce que tu vas en faire?
Vas-y, on verra si Abdel meurt. Vas-y, à mon tour. Là.
Attends, tu peux buter un keuf?
Well, as I said, Marianne, an unbelievably powerful film. What kind of impact did it make on you when you saw it?
I just felt so inspired by, you know, when I watched it, and I felt that, because there was a part of me that always felt that I wanted to make films, and I just thought, gosh, this is saying something that I've wanted to say. I grew up on an estate, you know, and I've never seen, you know, representation of that as realistically as I had in La Haine. So it was just mixed feelings. I mean, I was blown away. You know, you come out of it and you're just like...
It's so fast-paced as well. It's very, very well directed and edited, and also the camera work is amazing, isn't it?
You're confused immediately because you start watching it and you kind of go, low budget. And then you watch it and you think, the sophistication, because I'd been told it was his first film, you know, and it's his second film, but it is so sophisticated and well, I mean, every aspect of it, you know. The acting is brilliant. The dialogue is fabulous. That use of the French slang, you know, because there's parts of it that, you know, my understanding of French, I'm watching it and going, that doesn't make sense. What are they talking about? And they're sort of realising that they're speaking a sort of like back slang, I used to call it when I was growing up.
Well, the culture, it's as if almost the culture isn't relating to France, but to America, isn't it?
Well, the same thing happens here on the estate. You know, these guys adopt this whole sort of code of behaviour. I mean, I don't know where I'd quite place it. You know, they're into, obviously, the American music. The interesting thing about La Haine is they're into rap music, but it's French rappers, you know. And
it's interesting also, isn't it, the three-way relationship, because it would have been so easy with this film, a kind of us and them film, if you like, the teenagers and the police, to go into parody and stereotypes. But these three guys are all quite different, aren't they?
Yes, they are. It's rich in that way.
There are also quite unexpected moments too, aren't there? I mean, there's a particular scene, for example, where the three guys are in the toilet, and then something very odd happens.
Yeah, you know, you've got this scene in the toilet, and they're having a chat and they're arguing, as usual. And then this guy comes out of the toilets, there's this really small old man, and starts telling them this story. You know, they're listening and waiting for the punchline, and then sort of look at each other because it doesn't make sense. And you're kind of like in one film, and then you're suddenly in another film, and you kind of go, huh? What's happening? And I mean, it's just brilliant moments like that.
Au revoir.
Pourquoi il nous a raconté ça?
That's the sort of strength. There are those kind of funny moments, but really the whole core of the film is this awful tension, and tension for the viewer too, because they've got a policeman's gun, and Vince, the Jewish guy, is sort of threatening to use it. If their friend who's in a coma is going to die, he's going to go and he's going to get a pig, as he says, kill one of the policemen.
Alors moi je vais vous dire un truc parce que vous êtes mes amis, ok? Tu sais quoi? Moi si Abdel il passe, je vais rétablir la balance et je te shoot un keuf. Comme ça il va bien comprendre une bonne fois pour toutes que c'est fini, on n'entend plus l'autre jour.
Attends, sans déconner, la façon dont tu viens de parler, là, on aurait dit un mélange entre Moïse et Bernard Tapie.
It's a joke to these guys. I mean, the other guys, I think, are doing exactly... The police are doing exactly the same thing, but they're just in a position of power.
Moi, les petits épines. Je t'ai dit, les petits épines. Le plus dur, c'est d'éviter la bavure. C'est pas l'envie qui manque. On ne fait pas toujours ce qu'on veut.
Obviously still reverberations in France, given recent election results too, but you think still this film has an impact or relates well to the situation in Britain today as well?
Oh, I think so. I think so. I mean, you just haven't had a representation like this. you know. Of
Over
what's...
to you to direct it then.
Oh, I leave it to Gary Oldman and people like that.
You do the
very
female
well.
version, Marianne. Thank you very much indeed. It
Thank
certainly is an incredibly powerful film. I definitely recommend you see it, and you can, because La Haine is available to rent or buy on Tartan Video. Well, 12 years ago, the renowned English poet and dramatist Tony Harrison began creating a unique new form of film poetry to confront the major horrors of the 20th century, resulting in works such as The Blasphemer's Banquet and The Shadow of Hiroshima, which have been broadcast on British television. After an initial creative collaboration with director Peter Symes, Harrison took control of the whole process, deciding to direct the pieces as well as write them. His transition from poet to filmmaker has been both an extraordinary creative process and a personal voyage of discovery. We spoke to Harrison on the set of his latest film Prometheus, a tale of environmental destruction, and asked him about the art of poetry and motion.
Dead men's mouths make only the in dome, the in bomb, tuned to the hum that's coming from the A-bomb dome that I hear hum all round this baseball stadium. Still, after all these 50 years, reverberating in my ears. Can you not hear it? Or the choir? No, only a baseball hitting wire. When I was a kid at school, they wouldn't let me read poetry because I had a very thick Yorkshire accent. I'd learnt to do all the forms, so I could say, I can do it, I've taken it over. But I will use modern colloquial speech. I won't ever feel, you won't ever feel reading the poems that something has been wrenched to fit the kind of vice or corset of a classical form. What sometimes haunts these traders' looks are dark nights and days in cattle trucks. The film poem, for me, grew out of a dissatisfaction with the way when my poetry, this kind of poetry which I write for books and so on, had been put on television, I'd been reading, and someone had gone out and found images to put to it, and these are often appallingly chosen. So I began to see that there was a close correspondence between the way rhythm unfolded in film and rhythm unfolded in strict verse metrical systems that we use in poetry. The marks of one, now many months, known pure. If when it's exhumed the body's wet, Giovanni's going to put the corpse back in, it means the soul's not made it up there yet. Moistness, as of blood and sex, means sin. In filming, you also begin to understand what kind of shots suit certain kinds of developing poetic structure. And there's an example of that in The Blasphemer's Banquet, where it starts on a graffiti saying Scarface bummed his dad and licked his mum's fanny out or something. And then you go to a sign saying leave no litter in her do, and it's all filth. And there's just a long fence, and I'm talking about the divisions between spirituality and filth. The Blasphemer's Banquet came because I was saying how angry I was about the fatwa. And suddenly I thought, let me go and look at Bradford and see if I can make a film which will defend people, Salman and the right to blasphemy. When I see bigots wanting Rushdie dead, burning a book I'm sure they've never read, marble bust or not, Voltaire's got stored a much more critical book in this old head. I too heard bigots rant, rave, and revile books of mine which, after a short while, were canonized as classics, which is why you always see Voltaire with this wry smile. one of the reactions people have when they look at authentic or created footage of terror is they turn away. And it seemed to me that, once again, that the word, if it was seductive enough and powerful enough, could make the ear, as it were, go into close-up and take the imagination further than it would go than it would have gone had it simply been presented with the raw archive. It's one of the reasons I didn't use any archive at all in Hiroshima. Burns and blisters, bloated blebs burst as the Motoyasu ebbs, the tidal Motoyasu trails, black flaps of flesh like chiffon veils. I found this painter who every year went to paint the surviving atomic dome in Hiroshima and dipped his brush in the water, remembering the cries of his friends, because he happened to be out of Hiroshima in August when the bomb came. And then you have a very simple image, but a very dark subject matter. I'm working now on a film which is based on the old Greek myth of Prometheus, who brought the gift of fire to man. The voices are the voices of actors and singers, not my own, for all kinds of reasons. One is Walter Sparrow, an old man who is dying of lung cancer and emphysema, but he smokes 60 cigarettes a day, and he's like another version of Prometheus. Certainly all over Yorkshire, there used to be many pits, and these, as indeed Arthur Scargill prophesied, are now almost all closed down. And in fact, my film begins with the closure of the last Yorkshire pit. Compared with the circulation of a book of poetry, then a film poem on Channel 4, BBC 2 has huge accessibility compared to a readership of poetry. And I would like to feel that I'd worked to make things accessible enough to be shown anywhere. All you sitting there at home, can you hear the humming dome, the
And filming of Tony Harrison's Prometheus is still in progress, but it will have a cinema release next year. And the collision of art and film is also the subject of tonight's 2-minute film school. Surrealism, the artistic movement of the 1920s, united filmmakers, writers and artists, including Salvador Dali, Louis Buñuel, Max Ernst and René Magritte, in a full-on attack on conservative ideas about the nature of art. Films such as Un Chien Andalou and L'Âge d'Or, with their anarchic approach to narrative and imagery, outraged audiences and critics, but they continue to influence generations of artists, including contemporary filmmakers such as Tim Burton and David Lynch. Well, you can see why now in our comprehensive 2-minute guide to surrealist cinema.